Hey everyone, I want to talk all about cutting compulsions, a lot more geared towards physical compulsions and checking and rechecking, washing, not so much the mental rumination compulsions that are very automatic based on the core fear itself, avoidance behaviors, why it's so important to cut these out, why they're not going to be cut out right away, and everything else in between. Before I go any further, please subscribe, hit that like button down below. Let me know if you're struggling with some compulsion questions. Maybe you're just not taking it seriously enough. That happened to me a lot. I just wasn't putting my foot on the gas when I needed to put my foot on the gas. I had my foot off the gas too much, and I did a lot of coasting, which we all do. And if you need help with this, if you're not sure if something is a compulsion or not, please email us at phil@ocdrecovery.com, and we will get back to you in a timely fashion. So the first thing that I want to talk about is that exposures in of themselves usually do not lead to chronic OCD recovery. Now, it's really important to highlight that because we have many people that come in to see us from different places, and they've made a lot of progress, which is awesome. And they've been just doing exposures, right? Exposures after exposures. And the problem is they never talked about their core fears. So when I talk to people that come from outpatient facilities or inpatient facilities with, say, sensory motor, existential OCD, they've never even talked about the belief of being stuck in that depersonalized hypersensation state forever. And they never broke down those beliefs with them. And I can usually show them in a matter of 30 minutes on the first call why the exposures weren't nearly as necessary for their particular fears. Now, OCD is OCD. It's a fear-based disorder with behaviors and compulsions. Sometimes there's more outward compulsions, such as contamination OCD, magical thinking with a lot of rituals and stuff like that. Looking for a just right sensation, just right OCD. Everything is really a just right sensation, you know, whether it's our OCD, chasing feelings or so forth. But a lot of the fears, such as contamination, had a lot more physical outward compulsions. So it is important to start off with that. Exposures are certainly not the answer. They're a piece for sure, sometimes more important than others, but they're not the whole story. Unconditional self-life, other acceptance is utmost important. Breaking your fears down and then doing exposures as needed. And then a lot of people get to a certain point where they no longer need exposures anymore. So they get themselves to a place to where they really are doing a lot of compulsions, maybe some subtle ones that will get brought down in time, because a lot of the subtle ones just take a long time to really kind of say, oh, you know what, I'm going to try getting that out of here for a little bit and see how I feel. But overall, they're not just going to go away overnight. So that's a really important thing to say, because I know for myself, I was really hard on myself with, I have to feel better now. I have to get these compulsions to go away now. And then that just kept that fear cycle alive. And that goes into that myth where people say you have to work on recovery all day long. You know, you always have to be working on recovery. And that is absolutely 100% compulsive and will keep you stuck without a doubt. No change of a belief system or a behavior needs to happen right away. Obviously, we're not talking about people who are struggling with certain addictions such as drugs and alcohol. There's a little bit different of immediate action required in many cases with that. But sorry, I'm still a little sick. We're talking about the OCD recovery journey, and GAD and panic disorder, et cetera, et cetera. So the first thing I always recommend that people do is to make a list of the compulsions that they think they have. Now, this list is not supposed to be carried around like the Bible, or saying it gives you an idea of what you think your compulsions are, and then you can refer back to it from time to time. But I have to usually explain to the person that you're not going to say, I'm going to carry this with me at all times. I'm always going to be checking this at all times. It's why I'm really against tracking apps. I think tracking apps with OCD, and they're going to be much more prevalent because they're good marketing, and they can, charge people $2 for something and get a lot of people doing it. The problem is it doesn't do anything for you, and you don't need it. So you never need tracking apps, and they really do hold a lot of people back. It is really, really important to highlight that. So after you make a list of your outward compulsions, and let's go through a few. Let's go for particular fears and then things that I see. Contamination OCD has the most, right? So any type of washing, rewashing, checking, avoiding touching things, avoiding using certain surfaces of your hand, touching the back of your hand, avoiding putting your phone on certain things, not going to public places and coming home. Because remember, and Momin puts it beautifully, because Momin suffered with this as his primary theme, contamination OCD sufferers are constantly playing a game of chess in their mind. Remembering, is this contaminated? Is that contaminated? If I go there and bring that contamination back to my bed, et cetera, et cetera. Now, magical thinking OCD has a lot of outward compulsions. Passwords, correct amount of time, brushing your teeth 12 times in a row, the typical ones, stepping on cracks, all these little behaviors that you're going to have to risk doing it to where you feel just wrong. The big thing about OCD and anxiety recovery, there's a large period of time where we have to be doing stuff where we feel very off. So getting comfortable with that off sensation, getting comfortable with that off feeling and not venting and not asking for reassurance and allowing OCD to do its worst is really one of the most important things you could do on your journey to OCD and anxiety recovery. And it's so important that we cover that. Because that's what you're doing when you're doing a compulsion and or avoidance behavior. You're looking for a just right sensation. Now, those are big ones for that. Existential OCD, a lot of avoidance behaviors, a lot of Googling and researching, watching videos on what's the purpose of life, what's the meaning of life. Now, from a homework perspective with exposures, you can do things such as watch The Truman Show, Inception, The Matrix, but after like one watch of each one, it all comes down to your beliefs. Sensory motor doesn't have a lot of outward compulsions. Breathing OCD probably has the most out of the breathing, blinking, swallowing, saliva, and your heartbeat, the big five. Those ones, and there's many other hyper awarenesses, but the breathing one, avoiding exercising, avoiding intimacy, avoiding running, that's part of the exercise. Just anything where your heart rate would be up and you'd notice your breath more, being alone in a quiet room where you can hear that. So not wanting to do that. Those are really big ones for sure. POCD, harm OCD, lots of avoidance of children, lots of avoidance of sharp objects, lots of avoidance of movies, etc. So you're really going to have to make a list and start systematically bring them away. Now, on the flip side, you can remove all of those as fast as you want. There's no right or wrong way to do that. And the better you do it, the faster you do it, the better. But most people aren't going to do it fast because it's going to feel really scary. But it is important to state that you can do it quicker than you'd imagine. But it's going to take time. Now, the subtle compulsions, I'm not going to talk about those specifically in this video. Those will take time to really bring down. They're going to take a while to really realize, hey, this is what's going on. I'm going to have to change this. But on the other side of the subtle compulsion coin, there's a lot of times where you're like, am I doing this too much? Am I doing this too little? Is this a compulsion? Is this not a compulsion? You have to slow that down and just live your life and allow those to kind of come and go. So most important thing, takeaway of the video is expect symptoms to really flourish. Expect symptoms to really go up when you cut compulsions. It's not an overnight process. It will take time, but you can do it. Remember, there can be no recovery if there's any compulsions and or avoidance behaviors left regarding your fear. If you need help with this, please let us know. Cutting compulsions is very important. We hope to hear from you. Phil at OCD Recovery, and talk to you soon. Have a good one, everyone.